Good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Little, and my topic is about female high school athletics and adulthood success. With the rise in popularity of women's sports, I got to thinking about how this benefits women who are now conquering a previously male-dominating industry. I myself am on my school's golf and basketball team, and these sports are an integral part of myself and my identity. This is a common experience for many girls, which got me thinking about how this can be beneficial. With this in mind, it brings me to my research question. To what extent does being a female high school athlete affect success rates as an adult? Throughout the beginning stages of creating my study, I debated on how to measure success due to its subjective nature. Eventually, I landed on the combination of education and salary. Female athletics was never a major topic of discussion until the 1970s when Title IX was passed. Now more than ever, women's sports, but more specifically basketball, are making global headlines with athletes like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese breaking records previously held by men. Due to the spike in relevance, obtaining background knowledge is necessary to get a deeper understanding of my topic. According to Harvard Law Review, women's and girls' participation in sports challenges gender role oppression, and which allows them to be more self-confident than other women and more achievement-oriented. It is no surprise that by being a female athlete in high school is beneficial for development, but it also challenges preconceived ideas about women's in athletics. Skills such as these just mentioned are also beneficial in the corporate world, which is also a male-dominated industry. Being an athlete also comes with common misconceptions about academic success and intelligence. It may be assumed that collegiate athletes gain admissions into colleges solely based on athletic abilities, but that's not always the case. Additionally, it has been found that collegiate student athletes have higher graduation rates than non-athlete counterparts. This can be concluded because of the high pressure put on these athletes. Similarly, in another study, it was found that high school athlete GPAs are significantly higher than those of non-athletes. This is contradictory to the socially accepted stereotypes about athletes, therefore creating a disconnect. Finally, many of the skills adopted through sports participation in adolescent years have a direct translation into adulthood. According to Henderson et al., skills such as discipline, a strong work ethic, and teamwork are all learned in a team sports setting and translate directly into adulthood. Playing a sport in high school is a perfect example of what it takes to not only understand something at a high level, but to also perform with incredible consistency and have an expertise mindset. These are just a couple examples out of many that create a deeper understanding of my topic. Prior research has been studied on how collegiate athletics affects graduation rates, if former collegiate athletes earn a wage premium in comparison to non-former collegiate athletes, and if high school athletes succeed in college, just to list a few. All of these sources fail to include just female high school athletes and their futures. They only focus on college success, college athletes, or current high school success, which is where there is a gap in prior research. The methods I utilized were a survey with a combination of qualitative and quantitative questions. An example of a quantitative question asked in my survey is what sports did you play in high school, while the qualitative is how would you personally define success. I personally believe this to be the best and most beneficial methodology for my study because I need to reach a larger number of women and systematically ask them all the same questions to compare the data, and any other method would not allow me to do so. Another consideration is the ethical practices of my study. My survey was 100% anonymous, which allowed for confidentiality among the surveyors. It was also non-invasive or triggering, with no questions regarding mental health or a previous negative experience. Lastly, it was also only accessible to adults, so no minors were involved. My hypothesis was that female high school athletes will prove to be more successful in adulthood than non-athlete counterparts. While the study I conducted was done to the best of my abilities, there were a few unavoidable limitations that must be discussed. The beginning is location. I surveyed within a high-income urban city in Florida with little diversity, so the demographic pool of surveyors was skewed. Additionally, my survey was only accessible for 3 weeks, which did not allow me to gain the broader number of responses that would have strengthened my data. Last but not least, external life factors may influence one's life success that were not touched on my study. One example is if a spouse is the main contributor of income to the home. Some delimitations worth discussing are the fact that my survey did not include men. This is partially because the recipient pool would have been too large to organize in such a short period of time. College and professional athletes were uninvolved in my study because the recipient pool would have been too little. Women over 25 were unincluded in my survey because it is common for people to earn income from a stable job once they're completed with college. So by limiting the age of 25, it ensured women at least had the opportunity to gain a college degree and hold a stable job. Although this number is going up, women over 60 are typically retired, so they as well would not be earning a stable income. Therefore, they were unincluded as well. With all that said, I had 151 survey participants, with 11 marking male, non-binary, or other. By removing these erroneous responses, I was left with 140 participants. According to my data, 46% of former female high school athletes surveyed earn $120,000 or more annually, while only 32% of the non-athletes earn this. Additionally, 7% of athletes surveyed earn $30,000 or less a year, while 5% earn this if they were a non-athlete. This data suggests that while former athletes were 14% more likely to make in the six figures range, there was virtually the same chance for an athlete and a non-athlete to make under $30,000. It can be understood that the chances of earning a low salary are equal, but statistically it is more likely for the former athlete to earn more. If extracurriculars are included in the picture, 52% of women who were athletes plus marked that they did an extracurricular, such as debate club, earn $120,000 or more annually, while only 29% of just athletes earn this. This data suggests that by participating in high school athletics plus an organized extracurricular, higher paying salaries are more likely. If looking at education levels, 58% of former female high school athletes have a doctorate or professional degree, while only 41% of the non-athletes have this. This means that athletes had a 17% higher chance of holding the highest degree possible in their field of study than the non-athletes did. In addition to quantitative data, I also had a qualitative question. How would you personally define success? In other words, what does a successful adult look like to you? The responses fell into 8 categories: psychological and emotional contentment, happy, loving family, community contributions, professional success and contentment, personal fulfillment, financial stability, personal connections, and personal health. 20% of every response I received included psychological and emotional contentment. One response I received said, "A successful adult is happy, healthy, confident, with career and daily tasks that are challenging but rewarding." Another one I received says, "Balance in work and personal life, being healthy, happy, and secure." With responses such as these, I was able to develop a new understanding of this topic. Overall, women who participate in high school athletics are more likely to be successful in adulthood. To reiterate my hypothesis was that female athletes will prove to be more successful than their non-athlete counterparts, and my hypothesis was affirmed. A limitation of my study was that I was unable to get a diverse socioeconomic pool of participants, so my data is skewed. In the United States, it is not accurate that nearly a quarter of the country's population would be making over 6 figures, so I acknowledge that the location my survey was completed is not the average for most American women. As previously stated, other life factors may have influenced my findings, such as receiving money from wealthy parents, as well as considering success in a different light. Some women may have taken my survey who are stay-at-home moms, but still consider themselves successful due to the response in my qualitative question. The implications of my study are that female athletics are shed in a whole new light. The benefits are clear, and this study can be brought into a multitude of new directions. It allows girls and parents to use the data presented and judge whether athletics is something they want to pursue for their daughter. Teen girls may also decide if they want to continue athletics through high school, giving up the coveted little free time that they have that it could be used to hang out with friends, among other things. Based on the future beneficial effects it may have on them, opinions on women's sports may be changed. To replicate my current study, I posted my survey on the Nextdoor app, as well as I joined a women's-only Facebook group in my city. Word of mouth was also a beneficial tool in distributing my survey. And lastly, by polling in a suburb of an urban city in Florida with a low socioeconomic diversity rate, high income, high housing prices, the replication of this study may be successful. A different direction my study could go into is including personal contentment, as well as asking more personal questions about the surveyor's life. Since happiness and personal fulfillment were brought up a lot during the data analysis, it may be beneficial to include them in the future directions. With that said, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Okay, we'll have your first oral defense question.
How did the choices you made when designing your research method impact your research process?
Wait, can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yes, sorry. How did the choices you made when designing your research method impact your research process?
So my methodology, which was doing the qualitative and quantitative questions on the survey, impacted my data analysis and collection because it created two completely separate processes that I had to go to. So by using the survey responses, like what sport did you play in high school, it was clear data that I could, organize, and that was an easier process because I just had to compare the non-athletes versus the athletes. But by utilizing the open-ended question, that created a whole different way to analyze the data. So that took a lot of more kind of personal choices on like whether I thought that one response fell into this category. So by using my own personal judgment throughout that, that definitely affected my choices.
Okay, good.
How does your new understanding address a gap in the scholarly conversation?
So my new understanding that the female high school athletes will be more successful in adulthood addresses the gap in the research in a couple of ways. One, there were no sources that talked about just female athletes. None of the sources talked about high school athletes and their success in adulthood. They only talked about athletes' success while they were currently in high school. And my study also talked about education and salary, which other sources failed to use. They would only talk about whether collegiate athletes had a wage premium compared to the normal populations. So my study filled in a lot of gaps in the research.
How did you handle the uncertainty of the research process?
So throughout my process, actually, I coded my survey wrong, and so there was one question that only was present for the athletes and did not pop up for the non-athletes. So my expert advisor did a really good job of kind of helping me not freak out about that, and I feel like by removing that response, I gained a stronger idea of how to, go through adversity and the challenges throughout a research project. And so by having to kind of reconfigure and restructure my project, it eventually led me to where I am. And overall I'm happy with my study and the way it is now. So overall, it didn't affect me that much, but yeah.
Okay, great job.